Hey guys, so as promised, here is the video about the questions that you wanted to do for the Q&A. So sorry, don't mind my dog in the back. I'm so sorry that I couldn't get it up as a YouTube video. For some odd reason, I'm borrowing my mom's camera and it's giving me a weird error with the SD card that I bought today. So I have to fix that and then I'll get it up in YouTube form too, or I might just download this live and make it into a YouTube video for you guys. But I decided to do a live, that way I can get it to you guys on the day I promised. I'm so sorry it took so long, but there were questions coming in and I really wanted to answer them. Hi Gabby, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So I'm going to run through a couple of the questions that you guys asked. There's one on Instagram, so don't mind me if I'm like looking down. Hi Jasmine, thanks for tuning in. So if I'm looking down, don't mind me, or if I'm looking at my screen kind of off, I'm reading the questions that you guys asked. And if you guys have any questions that you want me to answer, go ahead and comment. I'm reading it as we go, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so the first question I have here is from I Love Lucy on Instagram, and she asked, why PT? And so she asked kind of like a 2 or 3 part question. He first asked, why PT? How are classes? Are they very hands-on, lecture-based, lots of group work? So let's start with the first question. Why PT? I think it is kind of cool and amazing that we get to help people with just these. A lot of times you can do physical therapy without needing any equipment and improve someone's quality of life and their functional mobility, which is so great. Even the smallest improvements make such a big difference in people's lives, and I think it's wonderful that we get to do that as physical therapists. And there's so many options out there that you can do. I mean, for instance, I'm interested in women's health, pelvic floor, pediatrics, and neurology, or neuroscience PT, whatever you want to call it. But since there's so many options out there, it's great that you can choose from those. And I think that, I don't know, I could go on and on talking about PT, but it's just great. It's just such a rewarding profession that makes a difference in people's lives. And you get to actually know your patients. And I mean, you get to learn little things about them, and you'll be able to tell if they're having an off day and, you know, what things you can improve on. And you'll be surprised at to how many patients confide in you and ask for your professional opinion. So it's really important that, you know, we take our job seriously. So I think it's a great profession, a great community to be a part of. It's so supportive. I mean, just from pre-PT grind and from every PT and pre-PT and faculty member or practicing PT that I've met, they've all been so nice and willing to help and answer questions. So, I mean, we're really fortunate to be in such a great profession. And you're asking about classes. So I know it depends on the school, but for instance, my school where I go, USF, classes are very hands-on with our labs. So a lab is when you would go in like gym clothes and you work with a partner on different techniques that we're learning throughout PT school and different treatments. So that is like the more hands-on portion. And with my schedule, that tends to be in the afternoon a lot of the times, and morning for us is lecture-based. Unfortunately, as a PT student, you do a lot of sitting, which really stinks, but you have to learn the information. So it's kind of a two-way street in a sense. So it's a lot of both, if that kind of answers your question. But I mean, you still get moving, you still get to learn a lot, and I think it's really great. And you do a lot of group work. I know that a lot of people question, like, do you do group work? I don't really function well in groups, but it kind of forces you to work as a team and learn to work with people from different environments and how they think. And honestly, like if you take it with that approach, it really helps. So there is a ton of group work that happens. In my second year, we do a lot of presentations, as well as in my third year. So group work is a yes, and it always ends up working out okay. You just have to do your part. And, you know, I'm sure I'll get this question too. What happens if a group member isn't doing their part? A lot of times I don't really have a problem telling someone like, hey, like, would you mind helping me do this? This is what has to get done with the group project, just to kind of like, you know, what is it, hint at them, hey, I kind of need your help. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think sometimes people, you know, SPT students are really busy, and sometimes people might forget or, you know, might not know what you need help with. So it's always good to just kind of ask if you're in a group, or even take the lead in a group. If you kind of have a plan, go with it. So that's kind of my advice with that question. If you have anything to add, go ahead and comment for that question. Let's see. The next one I have here is from Damien. He asked how much loans to take out per semester. And then he also asked how to budget for cost of living, when to apply for disbursement and when to apply for loans, and when is disbursement / timeline of loans. This is a really good question because I feel like getting into PT school, we're all worried about the finances. Let me think about how to kind of answer that question. It depends on the school, first of all, for the first part of your question, how to know how much loans to take out per semester. And it also depends on if you're supporting just yourself or if your parents are helping you or if you've had a lot of money saved up from working in the past. I think that those things all come into play. But the most important thing to consider is with cost of living, I looked at like 3 things when I applied. Thanks, Jasmine. The first one that I considered was the area. How cost effective is the area of the school I'm applying to? How much do students normally pay for an apartment? Here in Tampa, right now, I've paid anywhere between $500 and $600 for my rent. When I paid $500 for my rent, I was with a roommate in a townhouse, and it came with water, sewer, and trash included. And that was great because we didn't have to pay for that. But now in my apartment that I live in, I'm paying $600, and it's more than what I had before. And water, sewer, and trash is not included in the rent. So you kind of just need to take into consideration that. You also need to take into consideration how far you have to drive for school. I personally moved closer to school this year because the drive was just, I mean, even 5 minutes kind of makes a difference when you add in traffic and all of that stuff. So you want to make sure that you're close to school, and that'll add into the cost. I also looked at how much students spent like per semester on like tuition, books, and fees, like the real number, like how many books do they really buy? I know that sounds bad. I know we're supposed to buy all of our books, but there are some books that, you know, students don't use. So it's important to take that into consideration. If I'm missing anything when it comes to cost of living, oh my gosh, obviously food and how much students pay on average for bills. So food, I mean, a tip of mine is I go shopping at the farmer's market. I personally like fresh food, and it's cheaper. I spend about $12. I'll even make a video about this or try to show you guys how I do it this weekend because I still have to go. But I spend $12 on my fruits and vegetables for the week. Compared to if I go to like a bigger name grocery store like Walmart, Target, here there's Publix, whatever you guys have in your state. And there I would probably spend like $30, sometimes $40, depending on how much I buy. I eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, so it's great to have, you know, the farmer's market here. And I think what helps with that is meal prepping. So I save money by doing that. And then I'll go to like the major stores for like other things that I need that aren't sold there, but that's kind of like a little tip. And then for bills, I would say it depends on if your apartment's like gas and electric. I know these are like a bunch of little things to consider, but I mean, I think they're all really important. And internet. I know some of my classmates don't have cable. Some just have internet. And to be honest, I only have internet because I don't have time to really watch TV. And if I do, it's probably like the day after the show airs. So I usually just watch it online. So all of those things kind of come into play. I mean, for internet monthly, my roommate, like the whole package costs about $50. Our electricity can range, because it's Florida, anywhere between like $50 to $100 each, depending, or it can just be, I mean, lower than that. It just depends on how much you use your air conditioner and heat. We don't have gas at my apartment, but I mean, that tends to be a little lower, maybe like $30. So if you think about it, maybe plan to spend about $100 in utilities and maybe, I don't know, depending how much you eat, like budget for food. I mean, I think I over budgeted for food. I think I put like $200 a month for food, but that was just, you know, in case. But I really don't spend that. If anything, maybe it's like $100 a month on food, maybe like $150, depending on what I'm meal prepping that week, what I need. And, you know, I always buy in bulk too. So hopefully that answers like that aspect of the question on how to plan on how much money you need to take out. I personally, one more thing is my parents, I would rather them not help me with grad school. I have a brother who goes to a private high school and they're paying for that, and he's going to be off to college soon. And I mean, if I can do it by myself, unfortunately I have to take out more loans, but hopefully I'll be able to pay them back, which I'm sure I will. But if I have to do that, that was like kind of on me. So, I mean, I know students in the past have taken out the full amount, which is not recommended, only because you have to pay that back later. So be careful with that. I usually budget, let me think, how much do I budget a month or per semester? So let me just go with the max amount that you can take out for my school. That'll probably be easier because you can always request more money if you don't take out the max amount that your school allots for you to have. So the max amount at my school per semester that you can take out, I believe, is about, let's say, 25,000. Let's go with that number. 14,000 of that is going to go towards my tuition, and then I'm left with 10,000, and that gets directly deposited into my account for me to live off of, let's say. So it just depends on, you know, how much your apartment is. So what I usually do is I would take my rent amount, multiply it by 12, and see how much that is, budget out my groceries, budget out my gas, maybe allow for like some fun money, you know, because you have to, you know, work out, or your gym membership, or whatever else that you have. I also have to budget for my dog who's back here. So I budget for all of those things. Granted, I don't take out the full 10,000. I don't think I need that. But it just all depends on how much you need. And then the next semester you would like take out the same amount. And then I hope that answers your question, Damien, about that part, about knowing how much to take out. It just all depends. And I would look at what the max amount that your school can give you is. They kind of do that based off of like how much it costs to live in the area and all of that stuff. I think poll students to kind of get that number too. So I would look at that, and then once you get your apartment, ask students how much they spend on groceries per week in that area, because it also depends on like how much produce is and how much meat and what stores do they shop at, how much everything adds up, because here in Tampa I've noticed that dairy and meat are more expensive than they are in Chicago, where I'm from. So you just kind of have to take a lot of things into consideration. And then how to budget for cost of living, like I said, I would honestly get a spreadsheet out, list the things that you notice you spend money on like a monthly basis. And you know, now if you're a pre-PT, start to notice how much you're spending on groceries a week, on gas kind of, and you know, think about how much you're going to need for books, all of these things, and make a spreadsheet and write out what your budget is going to be month to month. So that way you know how much to take out. That's what I usually do. Now I kind of have it down to like a science after being in school for a little bit, so I kind of know what my spending habits are. But that would kind of be my advice about that. If you guys need an example spreadsheet, I can definitely reach out to classmates for a couple, or reach out to other pre-PTs or SPTs that might have that for you. Or I can make one myself, just let me know. And when to apply and when is the disbursement timeline of loans. So when it comes to applying for your loans, this is a really good question, so I'm glad you asked. When it comes to applying for your loans, I would, let's see here. Oh no, did my live? Oh, is it still going? Oh no. Hang on. Okay, I guess it's still going. That was weird. It like kind of cut out and like now it's back. Sorry about that. So to continue on, when it comes to budgeting and doing all of that, I would, I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh no, because that whole thing happened with my live. What was the question? You were asking, oh, loan disbursement. Okay, so when you apply, make sure every year that you apply for FAFSA by January 1st. I think now FAFSA comes out earlier in like October, I think it was this year. So make sure to get that in. The earlier the better, because it's priority. Thanks, guys. I see it. That was like the weirdest thing. I have no idea why my live cut out, but on my end. But so yeah, make sure to apply priority for FAFSA. As a graduate student, you do not need to apply, or for PT at least, since you're a professional student, you do not need to apply with your parents' information because you're considered an independent student. So that's info for you guys about that. Let me think what else when it comes to applying. Yeah, so I would apply by January 1st to get priority. You can still apply after January 1st, but if your school offers any grants or anything like that, scholarships, it's going to be given to those that apply before January 1st. So the earlier you can get it in, the better. And I don't know if a lot of you know about this with FAFSA, but you can also put like will file on your FAFSA and submit the information that's already on there. So that way it's submitted before January 1st. And then you can go back and edit it after January 1st when you filed your taxes and kind of put all of that information in there. My school doesn't allow us to work, so I don't file taxes, but if you do work or you have that on the side, then that's kind of what you could do. I always do that, so that way I have my FAFSA in early. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. And then there was another part. Oh, disbursement. So your disbursement depends on your school. For example, our school dispersed money on, it was like August 1st. So you'll either get it before you start school for that semester, or my school going into spring semester isn't dispersing until February 2nd. So we won't get our disbursement until then. So that kind of depends on like when you need it, and it all depends on your school. So unfortunately, I don't know if I kind of didn't answer that question, but I would ask on the disbursement dates, like your financial aid department or whoever's in charge of like coordinating first year might have the answer to that question. But it's dispersed once a semester, most likely in the beginning of the semester. And then there was one other thing. Oh, yes. So after you file your FAFSA, you will wait a couple of months before you apply for the Grad Plus loan. The Grad Plus loan is a loan that you take out in addition to the FAFSA that you get. So almost all graduate students are approved. I've never heard of anyone not being approved. It's meant for you to be approved. So the Grad Plus loan, I believe we usually fill it out like May before that school year, or like April, May, because I think the application's only good for like maybe 60 to 90 days. So my financial aid department told me to not fill it out until like I'm closer to the semester I'm applying for, or like the year I'm applying for. Hopefully that makes sense. But I would double check about that as well to see, like, make sure. But you usually apply for the Grad Plus loan a couple months after January. So it's not in addition to FAFSA at the same time, if that makes sense. So let's see, what was the other question? Hopefully that answered your question, Damien. Give me 1 second. Pulling them up again since I moved it. Okay. All right. So Melissa asked, what did you wish you knew before going to PT school? What was your application process like? Interview structure and tips I can give. So, what did you wish you knew before PT school? So what did I wish I knew? Before PT school, I think I wish I knew, honestly, about cost of living. That's a big thing, because I think I probably would have saved more money or worked longer hours because I took a gap year, or like kind of a gap year. So I wish I would have like saved up more, if that makes sense. So that would be one thing I wish I would have known or done before. I also kind of wish I would have pre-studied anatomy a little bit, like not get everything into my head, because I know that, schools teach things different ways and they want you to know stuff differently, but I'm talking about like actually knowing, like, you can always know bony landmarks. I feel like that is one thing that you can study that's not going to change across the board. Bony landmarks, or like, stuff on the bones, is really important to know, because that's like the foundation for how you're going to learn your origins and insertions, which is really important, because then you can kind of picture where the muscle attaches and how it's going to move based off of that. So I think it's really important to know your bony landmarks. I wish I would have done that before PT school, because then that would have kind of helped me breeze through a little faster with my origins and insertions. And one more thing, let me think. I wish I also would have been more of a planner, if that makes sense, and a group studier. I think I've never really used a planner. Don't do that though, because it's so bad. But I wish I would have used my planner more, because there's so many things that you get in PT school, and I think being organized and like being prepared for that is super important. I forgot what the other thing I recommended was. I can't remember. But yeah, planning is super important, and I think that I should have done a better job of that. But let me think. One more thing that I wish I would have known before PT school. The level, oh, that's what I said, group studying and like how to study. I think I wish I would have known the type of studying or technique that I would have needed to kind of get into, and mindset that I would have needed in order to study for a PT school. I think what a lot of people forget is that this is stuff you need for your career, so you can't cram it, you can't procrastinate when it comes to studying it. This is stuff you actually have to know and maintain. So I think that's something I would have like really honed in on in the beginning, because like I know it's like it's different from undergrad, if that makes sense. Like this, you need to actually take time and prepare and like make time to study. If it doesn't make sense, let me know and I can kind of clarify, but that's one thing I wish I would have known is like the different mindset that you have to have when it comes to studying for a PT school. And then she asked, let's see, my application process. So my application process, I applied 3 times to PT school. And the first time I applied only to 2 schools. I didn't really take my GRE seriously, which is not good. Don't do that. And I got waitlisted for one, and I withdrew my application from the other, I believe. And then my second time applying, I applied and I did not retake my GRE, but I took my application more seriously. I got better rec letters. I got waitlisted to one school that I interviewed at, and then I think waitlisted to another. So that didn't go well. So then what I had to do was kind of sit down and really think about, why am I not getting accepted? Like, I love PT. I have observation hours. I have great mentors. I have good rec letters. And then when I really looked at it, it was that I needed to hone in and retake a class again. And that to me was eye-opening, because, you know, like you can have a C. I think I had 1 C when I applied, but it's really important to make sure that your grades are on point. And, you know, not to think, well, maybe I'll get accepted to the school because I meet their stats. It's really important to meet, you know, the minimum stats, but it's also important to go back and take that class and do better in it, so that we can show them that, you know, I know this information and I want you to know that I know this information. That's kind of what retaking a class does. And it also boosts your GPA. And then I retook my GRE the 3rd time, which is funny because I didn't need to retake it for the school that I go to now, because I don't take the GRE. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, so I retook my GRE. I actually studied for it, and I made a huge effort to improve my application on all spectrums. I got stronger letters of rec. I was a rehab aide. I continued to observe. I think I even continued to do some research on the side with a faculty member from my undergraduate institution. So I really, really strived to make a great push to improve my application. Now, this is a really great question, and I think something that will help you, which is launching in a few weeks, is going to be the Pre-PT Grind course. So I don't mean to, you know, push you in that direction, but honestly, it's such a great course. I recommend it to anybody, because if I would have had this as a pre-PT student, I would not have been so lost when applying. It is a great resource. We have so many videos on everything, the interview process, applications. Gosh, I could go on for days. Loans, finances, just so much for you guys that I think you can take advantage of and really use that as a tool. So if you're interested, stay on the lookout for that. But let's see here. Heather asked, is retaking a science class online acceptable for most schools? So I think it depends on the school. Some schools will be okay with it. It just depends. That's kind of a hard one to answer, because I know some schools like when you have a lab portion of that class. So it depends. Some schools might tell you not to use that, but if you know what schools you're interested in, like your top 5, let's say, or top 3, definitely reach out to them and say, this is the class that I'm taking. It's online. Is this acceptable? Because to answer that question, it's kind of hard, because to each their own for the schools. Like each school has their own criteria for how they want you to take a class. I know a few people have taken online science classes. It depends on which one. If it's, I would say online classes for anatomy and physiology might be a little hard, just because I feel like you get more of a basis if it's in person, and I feel like schools like to see that you took that at a university or a college. Does that kind of answer your question, Heather? If not, let me know in the comments. And then, hi, honey. So let's see, you asked any advice on applying to scholarships before starting PT school this year. So don't mean to plug it again, but in the pre-PT grind course, we talk about scholarships and we go in depth about how to apply, where you can look for some. So that's a really good place to go and like get some information. As far as getting scholarships for PT school, I know Scholly is a really good app to use, like download on your phone. I think it's like $1 or $2, and they pull from a lot of places that you wouldn't think to get scholarships from. I would also look at your institution and see what scholarships they offer for graduate students or what scholarships your programs offer. A lot of times I don't know if students know about the scholarships that are offered via their DPT school or that their university offers. And I know Molly Knight has also mentioned that looking in the area that you live in for scholarships is really great, because some people don't apply for those smaller scholarships, but those give the most money. So look in your area online, like common things that you know that have given scholarships in the past, and apply for those. I don't think there's anything wrong with applying. I think it's smart. I wish I would have done it more. You saved so much money. So that's kind of my advice. Let me know if that answered your question. If it didn't, I can clarify some more or get some information for you guys about that. The next question that I have on here is from Stephanie. Oh, sorry, there's one more question from, let's see, Melissa. Sorry guys, this live is ending up being kind of long, but let's see. But I mean, I'm trying to give you guys the most information, so if it's too long, let me know and I'll try to cut it shorter next time. But so let's see. So she asked, what interview structure and tips can I give? So it depends on the school again. Oh, good. I'm glad it worked for you. The interview structure depends on the school. They're going to ask you questions about why PT. I even got a question about what book did I read. So it just depends on the school and like the culture of the school, if that makes sense. They want to know that the student that they're bringing into their school is going to be a good fit. My biggest tip, or my top 2 tips I would say right now that come to mind for interviews would be to make sure you know the school's mission statement. Make sure you look at the page. Make sure you look at the curriculum. Know what they do for community service. Know faculty. Know what different things students do. What programs they run. Look at the curriculum in terms of like what classes do they offer. For instance, one of the schools I applied to offered a Spanish speaking for PTs class, and I thought that was great because it meant a lot of the population speaks Spanish, and I think it'd be cool to take that, so I brought that up in my essay for that school. So just knowing little things like that and really doing your research shows in your interview. And the second thing I would do is, which Miss Zanaya did, and she got accepted into LLU, so go mentee. She did a resume and printed it on resume paper and brought it with her to her interview. That looks great. Sometimes I know you might not have an opportunity to give the resume, or they might say you don't need it, but just, I mean, I think it doesn't hurt to always come prepared for that. And as far as interview questions go, I will be putting together a blog with some interview questions, hopefully within the next month or 2. So stay tuned for that, and we can kind of go into that more. But let me know if you have any more questions on that. I hope that kind of gave you a brief summary of what to expect for an interview. Okay, so study habits and daily routine. I am actually going to do a vlog for you guys about this, hopefully within this upcoming week, since it's a light week at school and I can, you know, make some time to do that. So some study tips. I'll also make a vlog about this, but some that come to mind right now are a lot of my classmates use a whiteboard. They'll carry it around, like, you know, the ones that can kind of fit in your backpack, and they'll write stuff down a lot over and over until it clicks. If it's a process or something like that, that's one tip. Another tip is using Quizlet. That's really great. I know a lot of people use Anki too, or Anki, or however you say it, but that's another flashcard app. It's great to use flashcards. A lot of people write them by hand or do it on the computer. Or making a mind map is great sometimes. What other study tips? I would say reading the textbook is really important too. Sometimes. I know a lot of us don't read the textbook, but I mean, for some things, because you can clarify a lot of stuff through the textbook, especially if the lecture was kind of like, I didn't really understand it. If the textbook's actually really good and other students have said they've read it, I'd recommend doing that. That's what I've done to kind of clarify some things. And my biggest study tip, which I can go into and show you guys how to do in a vlog or a video, is how to preview material. So the night before an exam, or I'm sorry, before class, I go through and I preview all of the material that I'm going to have in class the next day for lecture. So what I do is I don't have to memorize what's on the slide or anything, but I kind of make like an outline in my head. Okay, so we're going to be talking about, like if it was a neuro class, therapeutic exercise. We're also going to be talking about the anatomy. Okay, it occurs in the basal ganglia. That's good to know. And just kind of look at the pictures, what the titles of the slides are, just so that way when I'm in class, it's not like just passing me over the head what the teacher's talking about. I actually kind of hone in because I know like what she's talking about and what I've heard before. Like, hey, I've heard that word before, let's listen in. Or hey, I know that's on the slide, I should pay attention to that idea. So I'll go into that some more in a video separately. Hopefully that answers that question. And as far as daily routine, I'm actually switching up my daily routine. So I'll do a video on that, but stay tuned for that because I think it'll be very interesting for you guys to see the new daily routine that I'm going to be implementing. But in the past, but you know what? I'm going to hold on and not answer that question yet. Stay tuned next week and I will give you guys a video about it, okay? Let's see here. What do I think set me apart from other candidates during interviews? So, I don't know how to say your name, but thank you, Ms. Delgado, for asking. So, what set me apart from other students, I believe, during my interview was one, that I brought my resume, two, that I researched the program and actually knew stuff about it. And I genuinely loved that stuff about the program. It wasn't like, oh, quick, let me look up some stuff, for my interview. It was, no, like, this is a school that I really want to get into. What do I think is important for me as a student for me to know about this school? And I would also ask during my interviews, what do they expect from a from a PT student? What do they think makes a good student? Because then that shows that you're willing to kind of embody that and that it's important to you to kind of reflect the type of student that they would like to have in their program. So I think that's really important. And another thing that set me apart was I did undergraduate research. So I did research in PT. I think I did some research on concussions, community access to physical therapy. What else did I do? I did pediatric research as well. So I think that kind of set me apart because I had some background working with faculty on PT. So I recommend doing research. A lot of people think it's boring, and sometimes it can be, but find something you're passionate about and dive into it because you learn so much. Hopefully that answers that question. So let's see. Hi, Wesley. Thanks for joining. Let's see here. You asked, since you're not taking A&P for a while, would it make sense to buy A&P flashcards and run them over and over? The more you know the human body, the better, right? I'm going to say yes with caution, only because it is important to not bog yourself down with all the dirty little details that sometimes anatomy flashcards can have. Good ones that I would recommend are Trail Guide to the Human Body. There's a book that comes with it, but that book goes into so much detail. So I don't know. It's up to you if you want to buy that one, but I think it'd be really good to kind of, get familiar with your bony landmarks, which is really, really important because I tell students, even students that I've tutored, that is the most important thing to know first. It's like your first step when learning anatomy. As far as musculoskeletal anatomy, you need to know where that muscle attaches and how it's going to pull on that bone to make it work. So I think learning that would probably be really good. And then I would use those flashcards. I carry them with me. I did carry them with me on a daily basis in undergrad, oh my gosh, I can't talk, my first year of PT school. And it really helped. A lot of students have purchased them, and it really helps just kind of run through them, know what group they're part of, like if they're upper extremity, lower extremity, know if they're oh, okay, so I would do this too. If you do get anatomy flashcards, look at them as a group. Like, this group of muscles is going to flex the arm or abduct the arm. If you look at them as a group, it's not so daunting in trying to memorize, like, what does the deltoid do? And then what does the bicep do? Because it does so much. So don't bog yourself down with that because they'll teach you that in PT school, but just kind of know it as a group. Know super baseline basic stuff. Don't try to memorize the origins and insertions unless it's like a muscle that you kind of, I don't know, have heard of before or familiar with. If you think you can, that's fine, but maybe find out what book that your school is going to be using, or let me think. I would go off Trail Guide for the Human Body if you're going to look at origin and insertion, because they're pretty accurate with that. Sometimes it differs, but it gives you a good baseline. So hopefully that answers your question, Wesley, about anatomy. And honestly, I kind of wish I would have studied it a little bit more than I did before PT school. And then, let's see. You said, what tips do you have for some who are a year or two away from applying to PT school? So some tips that I have if you're applying to PT school in a few years would be, you have time to do research and get involved in some programs. They're called the Summer Research Opportunities Programs, and those give you a chance to do research with a faculty member. I know NYU offers one. I think Marquette does. I would look into that. Google it, and it'll only boost your application. It'll give you an appreciation for why evidence-based research as a physical therapist is so important. And yeah, so I would say, 1, do research. 2, get more observation hours. I don't think it's ever a bad idea to have multiple settings. Reach out to PTs, ask if you can, be mentored by them. I cannot tell you enough how much it has helped me to see different settings. I think it is one of the best things I ever did. And 3, if you still have time before applying, try to make a genuine relationship with a PT. It could be someone that you're shadowing if you're a rehab aide, because then it's going to make the quality of your recommendation letter that much better. They are going to know you as a person. And I think that is so important. If you have time to make that relationship, I say make that time. I know students in the past have sometimes applied for school and the rec letter doesn't reflect who they are as a student. And that makes me so sad because you worked so hard to apply. And yeah, so you're still in the military. Let's see. So if you're a year or 2 away from applying, what else could you do? Honestly, you could probably also read up on some books. You join the Mobility book club, so that's a good way to join too, is working on your professional development. I think is so important as well before applying to PT school, and kind of reading books about patients and working on your patient interaction would be really important. What else could you do before PT school since you're in the military? Let me think about that, and I will get back to you personally, because I think that is a good question that should be tailored specifically to you. I'm not sure what access to things you have, so we can talk personally about what would be best for you. But I think if you have like a gap year or you're taking time off, always eat, breathe, sleep PT. Read books about it. One book is that you can read that's for fun. It's a light read, Run, Don't Walk. It's about a PT who worked at Walter Reed Medical Center after 9/11. And she talks about her patients that she worked with, and it's such a good read. So I would do something like that, or read research articles. There are a lot that are put out by like PTJ. Look at the APTA, become familiar with the APTA website. That is great. Or the chapter of the APTA within your state. So ours is FPTA, Florida Physical Therapy Association. Getting familiar with all of these things is just going to make you that much better of a PT student. So I think, a lot of students have gone into PT school not knowing what the APTA was or is. So I think it's really important that it's, the association that helps make a lot of the things that happen in our profession. You need to know about that. So, yeah, that would be a couple pieces of advice that I would look into. But let me get back to you personally and think about what other things you can do while you're overseas and kind of, improve in that aspect. So I hope this was really helpful to you guys. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or the Pre-PT Grind team. And I also am going to do one more plug for the course that is coming out very soon within the next few weeks to help you guys as pre-PTs apply to PT school. You get lifetime access to the course. It's going to be a good price for what you're getting. And I think, you know, there's so many things that you're going to get out of it. I wish I could go on for days about it because it's something that we all wish that we would have had as pre-PTs. That's why it was created for you guys to have a resource. So that is something that I really hope so many of you take advantage of, because we are so excited to mentor you and give you advice and continue to watch you grow and, you know, reach your goal of becoming a physical therapist. And one last thing I'm going to mention is the challenge that we're doing, the Pre-PT Win Challenge. I want all of you who have commented on here to please, please, please join the challenge. It is a 6-week-ish challenge that uses the blog post that I wrote, which is Win in 2018, which you can read on preptgrind.com under blog. It gives you some pieces of advice to go about like your daily routine and how to really improve on those things. And that's kind of like a preview to the video that I'll be doing about my daily routine soon. And things like to kind of implement to help you become successful throughout your day. If you started a certain way, it's going to reflect that. So I think that, you know, taking a couple of these habits and turning them into your own and really making them something that becomes part of your daily practice is only going to improve. So we want to see how you're doing that. So go ahead and use Instagram. It is an Instagram challenge. You're going to be using the hashtag PrePTWin in order to let us know that you're doing the challenge. You have to make sure that your profile is public so we can kind of see what's going on. We ask that you do 2 to 3 posts a week showing us how you're improving. And yeah, we also want you to follow our Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook pages. So that way we know you're involved with us, you're active. We want to have a conversation with you guys and really get to know you. So that's why we're doing this challenge. And we want you guys to instill healthy habits, help you succeed from here and the future. The prizes that we're going to be giving away are a guest spot on our podcast. So you'll be talking to Casey and Joseph about whatever it is that they want to talk to you about on the podcast. Once they get to know you, they'll kind of hone in on something that makes you you and what you bring to the profession. So I think that is wonderful. It was such a joy being on the podcast. I was happy to share my story with others, so I think that's a wonderful prize. Another prize that I'm giving is a DPT starter pack. I'm going to be putting things in there that I think are beneficial to you starting school. So I was thinking of including like a whiteboard, maybe a goniometer set, maybe a helpful book. So stay tuned for that. Now the third place prize or third prize that I'm thinking about, I'm still thinking about it. So if you have like any suggestions for things that you might want to see in a prize, let me know. Make it like affordable and like something that's practical for everybody to use. Yeah. Send me a direct message, though, if you have suggestions for a prize. That'd be great. So I'm so excited to have done this live for you guys, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening on a Friday to join me, and have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys later.